Ho'oponopono is the Hawaiian ritual of forgiveness. It proceeds from an understanding of the unity of everything in the world, which is true even though we feel ourselves to be separate. Because of this unity or oneness, nothing can happen in our world without creating a resonance in the observer. It follows that we can only influence problems in the external world if we heal the corresponding inner resonance. To accomplish this, Ho'oponopono relies on 4 magic sentences. I am sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. This book is written by Ulrich Emile Dupré, and he describes the Ho'oponopono in a simple way that everyone and anyone can immediately transform into their own experience. This book is about forgiveness. What is more appropriate than to begin with a dramatic story of sacrifice? It was shortly before Christmas 1970, and I was 8 years old, when my father bled to death on the carpet in front of me. Why? Was it fair? Did it have any meaning? In my search for answers to these questions, I got to know my first spiritual teacher, the theologian and psychoanalyst, Dr. and Professor Joachim Scharfenberg. I have to thank him and his wife, amongst others, for my first glimpses into the world of the Pythagoreans and that of Rudolf Steiner. Since then, I have lived as an independent, as a traveler, a quiet researcher, a seminar leader, and also as a monk. In my life, I've had the good fortune to be able to walk with great souls and thereby gain an intensive knowledge of 2 spiritual paths: Christian teachings through my family's side and Hinduism through my studies. These 2 paths appear to be outwardly so different, and yet they are the scenery of the same theater, which in all times and cultures reveals a single truth. In the course of my search for answers and for the source of all being, I have found a key in the Hawaiian forgiveness ritual of Ho'oponopono, and for this I am deeply grateful. Protected by the remoteness of a small group of islands in the middle of the ocean of peace, a simple but very effective method has survived the centuries. I should like to acquaint you with this blossom from Hawaii, which is quite tender and fragile, even holy, and so exists as the most effective method of solving conflicts and problems. Welcome to the world of the Ho'oponopono. The story of Ho'oponopono. The roots of Ho'oponopono reach far back into the past. Some even say at the time of Atlantis, Lemuria, and the High Vedic culture. Ho'oponopono belongs to a system of ancient Hawaiian teachings called the Huna. Hu means knowledge. Na represents wisdom. And the guardians of this ancient teaching are called kahunas, Huna experts. Only to know something without then using it really makes nonsense of it, because wisdom is revealed by what a person does, not by what they know. Ho'oponopono also comes alive when it is used, and so I invite you into this little book, and thereby to walk in a world full of wisdom, wonder, and beauty. A world whose existence you have always suspected, but could never grasp until now. The Hawaiians call their group of islands the land of aloha, the land of love. Aloha contains the very essence of the Huna teaching of knowledge and wisdom, and it forms the basis of Ho'oponopono. Aloha means, I see the divine in you, and I see the divine in myself. This carries the understanding that you and I, your neighbor, and the president in the White House, all of us travel a common road, and that there is only one power in the universe, namely the energy of unconditional love. mana aloha in Hawaiian. Aloha has only a single commandment: never to harm, always to help. The command to harm no one begins with not harming one's self, and thus to love your neighbor as yourself. Mana aloha is the essence of God's energy, the energy that penetrates and informs everything. The wise Hindu monks with whom I was allowed to live called this energy bhakti, meaning devotion. The Tibetan monks called it compassion. By this, they did not merely have in mind an emotion, but a directly experienced energy that influences the environment and creates a new reality. Ho'oponopono is this compassion in action, and therefore it is the theme of this book. According to a story from humankind's beginnings, the problems of the world arose when we fell into the error of thinking that instead of only one power, there were two, good and evil. Instead of compassion and its logical consequence, the realization that all is one, judgment and condemnation entered human thinking. Humankind took a step away from unity into separation, the first so-called advance in our history. Ho'oponopono is a simple way of arriving at unity, inner peace, and returning to harmony. Ho'oponopono implies solving a problem from the ground up and applying the solution to useful ends. It expresses the deep need to live once again in harmony with oneself and with humanity, nature, and God. Ho'o means to make. Pono is translated as right or correct. It follows that pono would be rightly right. And so ho'oponopono quite simply represents to make rightly right. To make anything rightly right means to join oneself again with one's higher self and the source of all being. To be in one's own center, return to harmony and balance once again, so that one is able to realign the environment and reshape reality. To make rightly right means an undertaking, after veering off course, to bring oneself back onto the right road, becoming sound in body and spirit, and achieving happiness and well-being. Ho'oponopono means a return to the divine plan, and is also described as a path to perfection. What is Ho'oponopono? The paradigm change. Ho'oponopono is a spiritual soul method of purification that cleanses us from fears and worries, destructive relationship patterns, and any religious dogmas and paradigms that oppose our personal and spiritual development. It cleans out the blockages in our thoughts and cell structure, for our thoughts are made manifest in our body. This is the paradigm change. This method is of Hawaiian origin and is based on the understanding that we live in a universe of abundance, and that God, Aqua, the original source, wants us to enjoy this abundance and perfection. However, what obstructs our experience of real abundance, loving togetherness, inner wealth, spiritual growth, and perfect health is our own self. It is our thinking, grounded and reinforced by a great deal of experience, which for a long time now has lost its validity. Its persistent attachment to fears and cares, to judgment, to doubt, and the negative mass consciousness frustrates our experience of our own perfection. Imagine that you are holding a big stone in each hand. If I should want to give you some money right now, you must first put the stones aside. The same applies to our patterns and prejudices, our values, and the gifts of the universe. The key to being able to receive lies in the ability to let something go, in the faith that we will not suffer any harm or loss thereby. The forgiveness ritual of Ho'oponopono is love in action. You forgive yourself and others for having inflicted any sort of hurt or for having failed to help when needed. Making things rightly right is a simple 4-step procedure that helps you learn to forgive yourself unconditionally, to love, and additionally to make things better. It is as if you were reformatting your computer's hard disk. It wipes out all the data that makes your life slow and burdensome. If something disturbs us and we feel disharmony within ourselves, maybe recognize a problem or have a conflict, we can always make a simplified Ho'oponopono. 1. We ask to reach a place of recognition, courage, power, intelligence, and peace. 2. We describe the problem and then search in our heart for our share in it. This share may, for example, be a judgment we have made or a specific action or memory that requires healing. We forgive unconditionally and speak the 4 magic sentences. I am sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. We give thanks, express trust, and let go. This simple and elegant method will not only ensure the resolution of personal problems and challenges, but also resolves conflicts within a community or group. Thus, a Ho'oponopono will demonstrate its effectiveness in all the realms of partnership, family, profession, health, and in finance. In his book Zero Limits, which he has written with Dr. Aliakilai Hugh Len, Dr. Joe Vitale plainly hollows this system in the subtitle, The Secret Hawaiian System for Wealth, Health, Peace, and More. We know today that in Hawaii, the forgiveness ritual forms the preparation for the healing of a physical illness. Sicknesses are seen as symptoms of inner conflict, and the energetic tensions are released through a shamanistic Ho'oponopono ritual. When the soul is healed, the body follows. Ho'oponopono, as a traditional family conference, was held by Hawaiian eldest Mary Kawina Puki. Misunderstandings and misendeemers are here reviewed and discussed in the presence of a mediator, a haku. In the problem-solving process, kalana, all the participants look into their hearts before God and those present, and all their aspects of anger, disappointment, resistance, and mistrust are resolved in unconditional forgiveness. In the 1970s, Hawaii's living treasure, the Reverend Morna Nalamaku Simiorina, introduced a modernized 12-step method to the public. She integrated Christian and Indian elements as well as the system of the 3 selves, subconscious, conscious, and superconscious, and presented Ho'oponopono as an aid to self-help. It thereby became possible to apply this technique to the purification of mind and soul without a mediator. After Mora Nalamaku Siminyoi's death in 1996, her pupil, Dr. Aliakalaka Hui Len, took over the leadership on her institute. Foundation of I. It was through him and his healing of psychologically ill prisoners that Ho'oponopono became known in the West. Dr. Len teaches Ho'oponopono, amongst other things, as the purification of memories, meaning the purification of any data that inhibits harmony. Inward forgiveness and the method of love can, in this sense, be understood as a simplified Ho'oponopono. We can see that a Ho'oponopono is not a rigid system, but a common thread runs through all its variations. This book teaches 2 of them in summary and for immediate aid. First, Ho'oponopono as a method of purification through which you can rid yourself of inner blockages and programs that sabotage the free flow of life. Example, I have doubts. And the gifts of the universe. Example, I have not deserved this. And the second, Ho'oponopono in the form of family conference, as it is traditionally practiced in Hawaii and applied in youth and in social work. To be successful, it is important to take the following steps. 1. To join with the original source, Akua, the being of light and the ancestors. 2. To contemplate and accept the problem, Hala Hihia. 3. To take on 100% responsibility for the existence of the problem in your life. 4. To be ready, following forgiveness, to handle things differently. 5. To mutually pardon and forgive, Mihi. 6. To give thanks and offer a closing prayer, Pul Ho Opiao. All situations, encounters, and events that may enter my experiential horizon have meaning, and through Ho'oponopono you can learn to decipher these inward hidden messages that are contained in the situations and events. Ho'oponopono is a practice orientated, and while you read this little book, you can already start undoing the Gordian knot in your heart and get ready to shape your world afresh. The story of Dr. Ahikalakila Hulen. Ho'oponopono may be the most effective method of problem solving and conflict resolution ever devised by culture. It became known mainly through Dr. Ahikalakila Hulen and the recording of his work in healing some psychologically ill prisoners. This achievement is considered a therapeutic miracle and demonstrates the effectiveness of Ho'oponopono. Moreover, it is an acknowledged therapy in the United States of America, and even forgiveness at the diplomatic level. There are already more than 50 studies. In 1983, a trusted friend asked Dr. Aikilakilaka Hulen to work in the psychiatric department of the state prison of Kanauhi in Hawaii. 30 prisoners, all psychologically ill, were confined there, with chronic shortage of staff. There was good reason for this shortage because both the institution and the work were commonly described as the hell. Most of the employees were either ill, unsuited for the work, or gave in their notice as soon as possible after beginning employment. However, Dr. Ahikalaka Hulen agreed to work there on condition that he was allowed to use a method that he had just learned. It was arranged that he would only read the prisoners' reports and would not talk to them. What did Dr. Ahikalaka Hulen do? In the following 4 years, he read the prisoners' reports several times daily and asked himself, what is there in me of darkness and negativity, of power and hatefulness, that something similar should exist in my world? What is my part in it that my brother has done such a thing? When he found something of that in himself and in his heart, example, power, aggression, hatred, vengefulness, envy, jealousy, the whole palette of the depths of humanity, he would say, I am sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. Dr. Ahikalakila Hulen worked exclusively on the cleansing of his heart and consciousness, and after 1.5 years, he made a Ho'oponopono and changed the mood, atmosphere, and climate in the prison hospital. After 18 months, none of the prisoners wore handcuffs anymore. The staff, wardens, and therapists now came happily to work, and the illness figures declined. It became possible to hold a therapeutic conversation with the prisoners, and after 4 years, all the inmates except 2 were cured. The institution was closed. Did Dr. Ahikalakila Hulen really cure anyone? Those impacted say yes. However, in an interview, Dr. Ahikalakila Hulen has explained that he only worked on his own purification and the deleting of information in his own subconscious. He did not speak of cures, but emphasized that the solution to the respective conflicts succeeded because he had taken 100% responsibility for the existence of the prisoners in his life. The power of forgiveness. Destructive thoughts about past events improve neither the world nor our life in it. Quite the opposite. The smoldering fires of old disappointments, of annoyance and rage, or toxic mental cocktail composed of jealousy and resentment only make the heart heavier and gloomier. We tend to turn away from people who have the smell of sarcasm about them. Once upon a time there were two monks who in the course of their wanderings came to a river. Sitting there was a young woman who said, "I cannot swim. If you, O worthy sages, also want to cross this river, I would be very grateful if one of you would carry me over." One of them said at once, "Come and climb on my shoulders." And together all three crossed the river. On the other side of the river, the woman bade them goodbye, and the monks traveled on. They did not talk, but one of them seemed troubled by something. "What is it, my friend? You look annoyed," said the one who had carried the woman. At that, the other snapped, "Oh, you fool! How could you have any contact with a woman? We are monks and live withdrawn from the world." To which the other replied, "It's true, I have carried that woman across the river, but from what I hear, it seems to me that you are still carrying her." Forgiveness releases us. It frees us from the burden that either we cannot carry or do not want to carry. Who would want to live their life with a big backpack on their shoulders, full of problems, old conflicts, and fears? Forgiveness heals and makes life easier. Above all, forgiveness is a gift we give to ourselves. In Hawaii, after the forgiving, the matter is settled, and no one busies themselves with it any longer. Forgiveness is not a one-time thing. Forgiveness is a lifestyle. Dr. Martin Luther King. We can learn to forgive, and we can learn forgiving and forgetting, just like anything else, just like writing or painting. If it does not work out straight away, we can act as if it did. It works like an affirmation. Example, "I am pretty and my body is well formed." It sounds completely absurd, but say it enough times and you might come to say, yes, it's true, I can see it. Interestingly, other people will then see it too, and we are proven right. To a considerable degree, we experience what we send out into the world with our thoughts and feelings. The world seems to resemble a great mirror, for it reflects whatever it is we feel deep in our hearts. In Ho'oponopono, we call it the kualo, the resonance of the outer world upon our inner world. The problems, sickness, strife, poverty, environmental destruction, famine, wars, are the image of the inner disturbances of humanity. Things have gotten out of harmony, and in Ho'oponopono, we seek the way back to peace while we heal the problem in ourselves. The core of the simplified Ho'oponopono, the 4 magic sentences. Together we will apply the 4 magic sentences of the Ho'oponopono in a small exercise and examples to solve problems and conflicts. It is quite simple, so please take part in this. If something troubles you, if something sends prickles up your spine and you would like best to turn around and go away, and above all, if someone presses your buttons, always direct your thoughts to the following sentences. I am sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. These 4 sentences seem like a mantra or a magical formula, but they are rather a meditation and a prayer. They operate through time and space, beyond cause and effect, and transmit themselves directly to your inner family, the higher self, the omakua, the inner child, Uni Hilpili, and your waking consciousness, Uhain. After a short while, you achieve inner peace and change from disharmony to harmony. You move yourself from separation to union while you say, I am sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. What do these 4 sentences actually mean? I am sorry. I apologize. I perceive that I suffer, and that connects me to my feelings. I no longer reject the problem, but recognize my learning task. I, or my forebears, with whom I am connected energetically, genetically, and by tradition as much as by history, have caused harm. I know where I stand, and I feel remorse. Please forgive me. Please forgive me for having, through myself or my forebears, consciously or unconsciously disturbed you and me in the course of our evolution. Please forgive me for having acted contrary to the divine laws of harmony and love. Please forgive me for having, until now, judged you or the situation, and in the past, disregarded our spiritual identity and connectedness. I love you. I love you and I love myself. I see and respect the divine in you. I love and accept the situation just as it is. I love the problem that has come to me to open my eyes. I love you and myself unconditionally, with all our weaknesses and faults. Thank you. Thank you for, I understand that the miracle is already underway. I thank God and the angels for the transformation of my request. I give thanks because what I have received and what will come to pass is what I have deserved through the law of cause and effect. I give thanks because through the power of forgiveness, I am now freed from the energetic chains of the past. I give thanks that I may recognize and join with the source of all being. When you arise in the morning, give thanks for the morning light, for your life and the power that you possess. If you see no reason to give thanks, that's your business. Tecumseh. Problem, conflicts, and stones along the way. The word problem originally comes from the Greek and refers to a task or a dispute. Literally translated, it means the gods throw a stone before our feet. The rulers of fate and Olympus do not do this to annoy us, but to ensure that we grow because of it. Every problem is a challenge and offers a learning exercise. We may grow through every challenge, whether it is about a new colleague, a neighbor, a traffic jam, an illness, a family crisis, or a hole in the savings account. People and problems that we perhaps see as our foes are really our best friends, because they show us where we have work to do. We could also say life consists of a linked sequence of tests that show us where we stand. A Ho'oponopono exercise. Please lean back a little and think of a problem that is occupying you or a good friend. Visualize this problem and search for it within yourself. What feelings come up? Breathe peacefully and be relaxed. Observe your feelings and the problem. Now say the 4 sentences and read the clarifications relating to each. Remain an observer. Repeat the 4 magic sentences to yourself until a feeling of understanding and sympathy arises. Give thanks. We are used to seeing our world in dualistic terms. We see things as simple or hard, above or below, rich or poor, black or white. It is like a coin. There is only one coin, but we see 2 sides of it. This is precisely the way we see our personal and international conflicts. We see ourselves and we see the conflict. We see a victim, perhaps ourselves, and then we say, the other is guilty. And by that we mean that the other owes us for spoiling our happiness. It would be interesting if we were to question those we consider culpable, those whom we make responsible for our unease. for having stolen our happiness, those who threaten us, harm us, or whom we oppose, those whom we avoid in the workplace or make way for in the street, or those who easily provoke us. If you were to ask these people why they act in this way, you would probably hear one of the following answers. I do my best and really can do no different, but this is what you wanted. I am a victim of society and circumstance. In other words, nearly every culprit describes him or herself as a victim. Though it will be discussed later in the book, it is interesting to view how conflicts in terms of the Ho'oponopono practice of family conference. In social work and coupling counseling, the participants in the conflict ask themselves directly how they have contributed to the problem, and they appeal for unconditional forgiveness and grant the same themselves. No one looks for compromise, but the greatest possible consensus, and each meets the other on a higher spiritual plane. However, back to our metaphor, victim and culprit cancel out. They are like two sides of the same coin. If I no longer reject my illness, my colleagues, or my debts, but integrate and use them as a springboard for growth and knowledge, I have made a leap towards perfection. I am reclaiming for myself the power to shape my world. Experience is not what happens to you. Experience is what you make out of what happens to you. Aldous Huxley. We seldom have any influence over the actions of others, but we can decide what we think of them, how we feel about them, and what consequences to expect. We can choose to make ourselves the prisoners of our own thoughts or to liberate ourselves and grow. The often experienced world view of victims is that the problem is too large and they can do nothing about it. Ho'oponopono turns this on its head because we see that the problem is close to me, and on that account, I have something to do about it. If I can change myself, I can change something. I can change myself and therefore have the power to make other changes. Please step out of the shadows and take back your power to make changes. Ho'oponopono works as a powerful tool to solve conflicts. Keep a simple trust in the power of love and forgiveness and just say, I am sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. Ho'oponopono exercise. Lean back a little and think about a person with whom you've had some reservations. Perhaps you avoid them or even argue with them. Feel deeply within yourself and now become aware of your strongest central feeling. Where is it? What is it? Where is it located? Become an observer. Observe and describe this feeling as precisely as possible. Embrace it in every single word. Fear, sadness, anger. Take a deep breath and say, just like me, this person has experienced. You name the feeling. This person experiences, name the feeling, just like me. And I feel it with him. I am sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. Please repeat this exercise and carefully read the clarifications of the 4 sentences one more time. Thank you. The law of cause and effect. Ka ua mia. We live in a universe of cause and effect. Each thought, each feeling, each word is based on something that happened earlier. Everything we do and also everything we don't do, example, refusing or ignoring our ability to help, has an energetic effect. This means that every single one of our thoughts, words, and deeds have a respective effect, which on their side works as the cause of new activity, and thereby becomes a new effect. Through regression, we encounter a gigantic network of causes and effects. This law of causality holds the universe in energetic balance. On the material plane, it brings about the constant transformation of all substances. And on the spiritual plane, it guarantees our learning process. We reap what we sow. The sickness of civilization, environmental catastrophes, increasing violence in our schools. Are these chance happenings? No. They are the result of what humankind, individually and as a collective, does and does not do. The law of cause and effect binds human beings to their actions, and as a spiritual law, it makes the consequences foreseeable. There is no punishing God. It is the emotionless principle of causality that directs what happens. The following phenomena was observed in a quantum physics experiment, showing that everything is connected to everything else. The researcher split a photon, which is a source of light, and sent both twin particles to two positions that were 14 kilometers distant. When the spin of one of the particles was altered, the spin of the other particle was also immediately altered, simultaneously. This connectivity is called quantum entanglement. The subatomic particles are figuratively interlocked with one another, such that as soon as the behavior of one particle is altered, the twin quantum alters too. Once that was connected, remains connected. Yet it is also quite understandable that your body is composed in part of atoms and molecules that were perhaps carried by one of many ancestors, or Julius Caesar, or Nefertiti. Everything on earth belongs to the substance of this planet, and thus, just as we are joined together in this material, so on the subtle planes are we joined through our spirits. Our consciousnesses is a part of the ever-present and all-penetrating world, soul. Each one of us bears within ourselves an aspect of God. In addition, we have a higher self, as a collective subconscious and an archetypal conscious. Thus, whether regarded physically, mathematically, chemically, musically, or spiritually, we are all, you and I, human and animal, plants and nature, joined with each other. Together we form a whole, and at the same time are individuals. Here I should like to describe to you an astonishing phenomenon that has recently been discovered by newly developed measurement processes and reported by the Institute of Heart Math. The electromagnetic field produced by the heart has a measurable radius of approximately 8 meters. This means that we mutually penetrate each other, whether in a cinema or on a bus, in the waiting room, everywhere, and simultaneously, we penetrate each other with our feelings, wishes, and plans. Everything that once was, still is, only in another form. Hopi wisdom. Everything is vibration. In the beginning was the word, the logos, the sound, the syllable Om, and the original chord. Everything vibrates. In this universe, there is no standing still. Everything oscillates, pulsates rhythmically, circles and moves in cycles. Everything flows, as the ancient Greeks used to say. At every moment, several thousand microchemical processes take place in each single cell of your body. Sounds make mood. We often speak of good vibrations or a bad atmosphere vibes. We have an antenna for that sort of thing, and when we enter a space, we know in our hearts where the music plays. The universe is a kind of mighty symphony, and it is because everything vibrates and is connected each to each that everything also mutually influences everything else. All atoms send out and receive energy. Through the so-called principle of resonance, similar vibrations collect together. Like attracts like. Just as a wave crest reinforces the oscillating ebb and flow, contrasting oscillations are to be found in the culprit-victim relationship. Just as wave crests and valleys succeed and reinforce each other, We also see this mutual strengthening in teamwork or in committed partnership. In a team, 1 plus 1 are worth more than 2 individuals because they are mutually inspired, challenged, and encouraged. On the other hand, if contrasting oscillations cancel out, we soon recognize whether or not our colleagues are in sync with us. Both parties can still contribute many skills, or achievement lags. Every conflict, every judgment, condemnation, unhappiness, and complaint leads not only to a decline of energy, example, I am busy, but also to dissonance and discord. I can no longer listen to that. This disharmony opposes love and leads to sickness and separation. I want to get away. By contrast, harmony and sincere sympathy lead to health and unity. Because everything influences everything else, I contribute to harmony. And if I discover my share in disharmony and enter instead into the healing process, I am part of this world. While I heal myself, I heal the world. If there is a disturbance anywhere, I feel it in myself. If in this way I find my share in the disturbance and enter into harmony again, I am participating actively in the world's healing process. We are far more than a physical body. We are also far more than our thoughts. We are not this body, but we have this body. We are also not our thoughts, but we have thoughts. And even they are frequently not our own, but rather a reflection on the headlines of daily newspapers, for example. When you and I, animals, plants, are spiritual beings, the core of our true identity is divine. It is that which does not age, but always was and ever will be. In Hebrew, this immaterial divine spark is called Odem, and in Sanskrit, Atma. The Huna concept is expressed Cain, spirit of God. Just as a drop of water from the ocean possesses all the chemical properties and elements of the ocean, so too, in our pure consciousness, we have all the qualities of God, though only in small measure. In quality, we are like God, but in quantity, we are different. Thus, you and I are not material beings who are having a spiritual experience. On the contrary, by our nature, we are non-physical, spiritual beings who are having a material experience. And we all find ourselves on this common journey. Imagine that you are stuck in a traffic jam. If you have no important and pressing goal in mind, you can contemplate the matter in a relaxed fashion. Admittedly, if your work, relationship, or someone else's life were at stake, the matter would look quite different. For one person, a traffic jam can be a saving grace. For another, a complete catastrophe. From a Buddhist point of view, every situation, event, and object is essentially empty. Everything gains meaning by our contemplating it. Among the Huna, this translates as, the world is what we think it is. Our world is subjective. It is clear to us that the world is far more than we, with our limited senses, can perceive. The ranges and perceptive spectra of our eyes, ears, nose, and skin, tongue, are limited and individually different. Simultaneously, our brain filters only that which appears important to us, and our cultural conditioning from the flood of information and mob of data reaching us. The world works on us, and we sense reality as a result of our past experiences. This past, our thoughts and feelings, our learned opinions and their interpretations, all from our world. From truth there is formed a reality, one that operates on us. With every thought and every word we can create our future. If we think lovingly and sympathetically, we are co-creators of harmonious futures. Thoughts full of doubt, aversion, and bitterness will relegate us to be the co-creators of a gloomy future. Thoughts and words of love and forgiveness raise the vibrations. Thoughts of worthlessness and condemnation lower the vibrations. It remains up to us to decide which film we enjoy, what we like eating, what we believe, and where we work. Peace begins with me. Individuals' experiences and these experiences were based primarily on mistakes. Past errors like a company bankruptcy or a wrecked marriage only become mistakes if we do not learn from them. Otherwise, they are merely events and experiences. For many years, I felt annoyed and inwardly belittling myself for my mistakes. I resented those who had harmed me and frequently thought about them, so continuing to allow them mental force and power over me. The healing of my soul began in literally an encounter with Louise Hay. She recommended me to love myself. I forgive myself. I am sorry. I love myself. Thank you. Forgiveness is an effective and mental and physical antidote to poison. Negative thoughts poison our body. First, the soul becomes sick, and then the body. Constant stress, impatience, and ill humor sour the body and poison the cells. Ultimately, aging, loss of drive, and depression are the usual consequences. A guilt-laden spirit becomes melancholy, but if we love and forgive ourselves despite our past faults, we strengthen our immune system and rejuvenate. It is not possible to alter other people, but everyone can begin with themselves, and in this way act as a model for others. This world can experience peace if we find harmony within ourselves. If we are at rest within ourselves and do not look only for external happiness, if we look internally. If we have peace within ourselves, we can pass it on. People change when they themselves want to change direction. Ho'oponopono prayer. Dear God, Father and Mother, source of all being, you are our best friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We face a great challenge and we ask for your blessings in this Ho'oponopono that we may all grow together. We give thanks for the strength to say the truth and for the courage to listen to the truth. We give thanks for your divine guidance. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Healing the past. Over a lifetime, events can happen that leave us wounds and are hard to heal. Perhaps we are wounded by the body or in the soul. Perhaps we're victims of ill treatment. Whatever it was, we cannot undo what was done, but we can remove its harmful influence from our past. The past lives in us form the memories. It is still present in us, and the meanings we attach to the events from the near or distant past are directed by our current feelings. Do we accord to others the right to determine how we speak, think, or act? No. When we change the feelings that link us to events, we also change our memory. And when we change our memory, we change our view of the present and the future. Sometimes that necessitates long years of therapy, but with a Ho'oponopono, this quantum leap often succeeds within a few minutes. I'd like to now invite you to such a quantum leap. The driving force behind our actions is our subconscious, and we, or rather someone, has programmed our subconscious. Perhaps your parents believed you were to be a failure, or you have a partner who tries to control you while telling you how bad you are. The fact is, the only thing that counts is what you believe. Only what you believe about yourself, your self-image. That's the only thing that counts. Two are always necessary to start a conflict, even when we wrangle with ourselves. And the whole question revolves around an inner dialogue of nagging self-doubt. The problem is always mine because I am part of the problem. I have a share in it, even when I am not the obvious cause. If I have a share in it, even when I am not the obvious cause, if I can accept that there is a vibe in me that is attracted to the disturbance through the principle of resonance, I move from impotence to power and can contribute something to the solution. We are frequently accustomed to react to circumstances, events, and people. For us to take 100% responsibility for everything that comes into our life means that we make the leap from reaction to action. The trainer and entrepreneurial advisor Stephen Covey calls this becoming proactive. Taking 100% responsibility means understanding that I dispose of the free decision to choose my reactions. If we understand ourselves as spiritual beings, we recognize the equality of all living beings and can develop the qualities of sympathy, understanding, and equanimity in ourselves. Our senses are imperfect, and according to the testimony of the Ayurveda, 9 out of 10 conclusions are simply wrong. Our objectivity is reduced to 10%. Judgment leads to separation. Acceptance and forgiveness leads back to unity. Separation leads to harmony, isolation, fear, arrogance, and sickness. Harmony and agreement, on the other hand, lead to joy, happiness, inner riches. And if one so wishes, outer riches will follow. Health, God, the universe, and source do not pass judgment, for they know that in every second we do every possible thing for ourselves. When we judge, we raise ourselves above God. Examples of liberating sentences. I am sorry that I want to be perfect. I am sorry that I believe that I will only be worth loving if I am perfect. I suffer for it, and so does everything around me. Please forgive me. I forgive myself for that now. I ask you to forgive me, and I now forgive myself unconditionally. I now forgive everyone who has made me afraid, and who now have such a great claim on me and themselves. I love myself in my imperfection, as I love a child in its imperfection. I now acknowledge my perfection, just as the child is perfect. I now accept myself, just as God accepts me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, number 1, the prayer pool. In a communal prayer, we each connect ourselves with Source, with God and the ancestors. Thereby, we raise ourselves to a higher level of energy. In other words, we always do the same thing. Example, because we have always done the same thing, we will always get the same result. In prayer, we recognize that we are directed to seek help, perhaps because we are stuck fast in a relationship pattern. However, instead of asking for the problem to be solved through another, dear God, please make Ben have a thorough wash for once. We ask for insight, intelligence, and the strength to listen, and the courage to speak the truth. Then finally, the conflict presents us with the opportunity for a realization and mutual growth. Description of the conflict. The Mahiki. In the second step of the process, one speaks about the unfulfilled needs and expectations, but also about the injustice, rule infringements, and pain. 3. Mutual requests for and guarantees of forgiveness, Mihi and Kala. In step 3, all the participants look for their share of their problem. The well-trodden paths of the typical culprit-victim relationship are abandoned, and everyone is ready to search their hearts honestly for the ways in which they themselves have contributed to the problem. Here's an example. Someone in the family begins to drink. He neglects his duties, and further problems and conflicts arise in the family. There is an open question which everyone now asks in their head. If I have done something that caused my brother to become dissatisfied with himself and because of it start drinking, what was it? Perhaps earlier someone had slighted him, argued with him, offended his girlfriend, not taken him seriously, etc., so that the brother has sought his solution in alcohol. What is my share in the cause of my brother's drinking? After everyone has spoken and cleansed their hearts, there follows a mutual and common request for granting of forgiveness. The victim forgives the culprit forgives the culprit forgives the victim, and the victim forgives the victim. Thereby, the matter is oki, settled. Number 4, let go, kala, and the common prayer of thanks, pure, ho, opo. In step 4, all speak together the prayer of thankfulness. Thankfulness is essential, for the matter is now with God, the angels, and the ancestors, and they concern themselves with transformation. It is our task to have trust in God's work and no longer act in the old, accustomed ways. Oki is very much oki. It is traditional to end a ho'oponopono with a communal meal. We all live in various sorts of communal entities that which we perceive as familial, family itself, society, the town, or the country. Humans belong to the mammalian family, and the name we were given to the totality of our great family is the ecosystem. The field of application and the possibilities for Ho'oponopono are very, very wide. Your colleagues are not perhaps ready to join with you to make a Ho'oponopono, but you can do it for them in spirit and watch what happens. Before the sun goes down each dawn, forgive. Hawaiian proverb. If a person does not forgive himself for his past mistakes and believes he is guilty, he will become ill. In the end, he has to suffer and be punished for his mistakes. It is quite simple. If you continually scold yourself for something, you program your subconscious to destroy you. You will then either eat too much or too little, sleep too much or too little, perhaps you work yourself to death or begin wanting to please everyone. If we punish and scold ourselves unconsciously, it can happen that our defective self-consciousness not only weakens our immune system, but overdraws on our bank account. Then finally, anyone who is worthless has no money and deserves no reward. Snap. Each of us possesses unique capabilities. These talents are a unique contribution to the well-being of the whole. Each person bears within him a valuable treasure, his or her individual vocation. Vocation means that there is a calling within each of us, a purpose. When we follow this call, everything goes well. When we are in tune with ourselves and with life, our life now flows and follows a plan that is much bigger than we are. Please imagine the following situation. You are lying on your deathbed, and your capabilities come in. And one after another, they ask you, why have you not done more to develop them? Finally, your dream enters, the dreams that you have always had. And the dream asks, why have you not lived me? I have spoken to you every day. What will you say in reply? I'm going to say that one more time. Imagine the following situation. You are lying on your deathbed. Your capabilities all come into you. And one after the other, they ask, why have you not done more to develop me? Then your dreams enter. The dreams that you have always had. And one by one, each dream asks, why have you not lived me? I have spoken to you every day. What would you say in reply while you're on your deathbed to your dreams and capabilities that you ignored? The last part is, I am a part of this world. When I change myself, the world changes too. When you and I begin to really understand what faith and trust, words and feelings, the quantum laws, love and forgiveness can achieve, we possess a powerful tool to move world events in a positive direction. Do you know about holograms? A hologram is an image with a special property. If you cut it to pieces and look at it, and look at one of the new and very small pieces through a magnifying glass, you will always see the same image of each fragment. Stated metaphysically, as in the great, so in the small. A macrocosm in the microcosm. Our universe is such a hologram. We live in a hologram. You and I are parts of this universe. We are parts and images of God. This means that the universe and God also act through us to take a step in the direction of making right right. and the whole universe makes a leap towards harmony and peace. That bestows power and responsibility on every individual. We can each begin with ourselves. If something disturbs you, if you would like to improve something or bring something on this planet into harmony, please put the following 4 questions to yourself. Who has the problem? Who is the problem? Who has the power? Who has the responsibility? Please make a ho'oponopono to all these questions and unconditionally forgive yourself and everyone who has in any way participated. After you have moved yourself, and therefore the planet too, back from self-destruction to a place of love, make a paradigm change and look for new possibilities. Ask yourself, if there was something I would do whereby I could be a part of the solution, what would it be? And simply direct your attention away from the problem and fix it on the solution. Focusing on the solution, there is no problem. We are all traveling on a mutual journey. Heal yourself and you'll heal the world. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Mahalo nui loa. Many thanks. Mi ki aloha. Pumihana, with heartfelt greetings. Much love to you all on your Ho'oponopono journey. It starts with you.